I love how human and relatable today's text portrays the Holy Family. Mary and Joseph are at their rope's end. They traveled an entire day before realizing Jesus wasn't with the caravan. Then it took them 3 additional days to find Jesus in the temple, because of course that's where a 12-year-old boy goes to hang out in the middle of the city. And then there's Jesus, right? He just spent the last 4 days in his own personal vacation Bible school, asking hard questions and debating astonished teachers. While I do find it odd that no one seemed concerned that a boy was just left at the temple, why did this 12-year-old choose to stay there? What was he looking for? And did he find it? Maya Angelou once said that the ache of home lives in all of us, the safe place we can go as we are and not be questioned. But a sign at Hobby Lobby once told me that home is where the heart is. While we've been exploring the concept of home throughout Advent, that splintered, rustic sign keeps coming back to me. Home is where the heart is. The sentiment is simple. Home isn't a building, bed, couch, car, or sleeping bag. Home is a place where you leave your heart out in the open. Home is, as Maya Angelou said, where you risk being raw, unfiltered, and authentic. Home, where you feel your soul sink into the ground and take root. Home, where your heartbeat slows and your breath deepens. Home, where the truest parts of you come alive. Growing up, I ached for a place like this. I didn't have a terrible childhood, but I did have a lonely one. I lived in a town of 1,200 people and 1 stoplight, so there wasn't a lot to do nor many places to go. Somehow the church became the place where I spent my time. I played on the church's basketball court daily. My closest friendships were made over cheese fries and air hockey after a youth group. I had support from Sunday school teachers, the volunteers who showed up at every single kid and youth event, and there was even love from an old man who used to slip me a piece of hard candy every Sunday. Despite its rough edges, the church became my home, the place where I felt like I belonged. I wonder if Jesus experienced this ache for home. I wonder if he remained in the temple looking for belonging. I wonder if the young boy with prophetic weight on his shoulders felt seen not as a child underfoot, but rather as a child of God who also sought clarity for the questions splashing around his soul. If so, I wonder if Jesus felt like he was home in that temple. Home, where your soul sinks into the ground and takes root, where your heartbeat slows and your breath deepens, where the truest parts of you come alive. In her book, Gifts of Imperfection, our patron saint, Brené Brown, talks about the powerful drive for belonging. Belonging, she says, is the innate human desire to be a part of something larger than us. Because this yearning is so primal, we often try to acquire it by fitting in, by seeking approval. Both of these allow some form of belonging, but are hollow substitutions. She goes on to say, true belonging only happens when we present our authentic and imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our own level of self-acceptance. As I grew up and my childlike faith turned into deconstruction, I found myself more alone than I thought possible. The faith I celebrated as a kid was built on shame and control. The questions and doubts kept coming, and with them, I lost the family and place I called home. I became bitter and angry because my sense of belonging was rooted in the acceptance and embrace of others. I wonder how many of us get that. The ache of belonging becomes its own form of curse. Every rejection, every no, every closed door becomes an internalized message that says who we are will never be enough, that our needs are too great, that we will never find a home, that we will never belong. Within the queer community, the term chosen family is sacred. Family not by blood, but by choice. I used to think that a chosen family comes from never finding true belonging within our birth families. That belonging to a chosen family is when others choose us, despite our faults, despite our weird quirks, despite our doubts. But the power of a chosen family, of a chosen home, comes when we first choose ourselves. True belonging, as Brené Brown puts it, is not the belonging that comes with just joining a group. It's not fitting in or pretending or selling out because it's safer. It's actually a practice that requires us to be vulnerable, get uncomfortable, and learn how to be present with people without sacrificing ourselves. True belonging is not something that you negotiate. It's what you carry in your heart. It's finding the sacredness in being a part of something where we belong everywhere and nowhere. The moment we choose ourselves, our unfiltered, unapologetic selves, we enter into a belonging that isn't tied to people or places. A chosen family, a chosen home is made because we make them within ourselves. It's at the point that then we belong everywhere and nowhere. I'd like to say I'm on the other side of the belonging journey, but the truth is the ache still drives me. I'd like to say that seminary answered all my questions and brought me closer to God, but the truth is I'm still learning, unlearning, asking questions, seeking truth about my inner world as well as the outer world. Most days I feel like I'm waiting for a Mary to come rushing in, shrieking like Molly Weasley in Harry Potter, "Where have you been?" All the while being embraced by this safe and warm hug. After his parents arrive and he makes his potentially sassy retort, Jesus simply gathers his things and goes back with Mary and Joseph. Did he find the answers to his questions? I doubt it. In fact, I'd wager, just like seminary, it brought up even more questions and doubts. But I don't think that was the point. I wonder if for the first time in his young life, Jesus chose himself. I wonder if he watched the caravan leave the city and decided to finally take his questions and doubts and most vulnerable self to the temple elders. I wonder if during that time, those ancient folks surrounded him and tried to teach him that true belonging only happens when we present our authentic and imperfect self to the world. I wonder if that was actually the point all along. Brené says it takes special courage to experience true belonging. It's not just about braving the wilderness, it's about becoming the wilderness. It's about breaking down the walls, abandoning our ideological bunkers, and living from a wild heart rather than a weary heart. In this new year, I hope this for us. I hope we honestly see where God is calling us to embrace the ache for home. May it be a year that we choose ourselves individually and as a community, where we become the wilderness and we take all the risks for true belonging. And I hope along the way we learn how to make home everywhere we go. Amen.